Jeff, thank you very much. Let's get some perspective on these numbers. Let's bring in CNN political analyst and editor-in-chief of the Daily Beast, John Avlon, and CNN political commentator, Tara Setmayer. Good to have both of you here.
Morning.
So let's look at the headlines. Jeff was teeing it up there for us about this attrition of Hillary. Let's unpack that first. How do you see it?
Look, she's had a rough couple of weeks. There's been incoming about the foundation, about emails, Republicans getting some confidence hitting her on the trail, and she's had a hard time driving a positive message, and these Potemkin Village-type press conferences haven't necessarily helped. She's got to play offense in a positive way. Presumably that's what she's going to do when she officially announces on Roosevelt Island, but she's had a tough cycle, and you're really seeing it not just with independents. Suburban voters, there's a real loss there, and that should be the base of her support.
Tara, do you agree that the root of some of this problem is that she hasn't taken reporters' questions and been more accessible?
Yeah, absolutely, because by not hearing from the candidate herself, people are left to believe what's reported on. She hasn't come and given anyone an explanation as to what's going on. There's also a reason for that too. You know, we looking at these numbers, you see how she's had a steady decline in all of these areas since last year. Last summer is really where she kind of rolled back out again with her book tour. It was a quasi-campaign listening tour through a book tour, and she didn't do very well. She performed terribly, actually, and she had to walk it back, and her handlers had to rethink, how are we going to reintroduce Hillary Clinton to the voting electorate, because the way they did it over the summer, she didn't perform very well.
And you're also giving a little nod to what's working effectively now on the GOP side, which is this unrelentingly negative narrative on Hillary. I mean, she's been getting beaten up. She's not talking to the press. That's a tough combination. The question is, are you finding someone strong enough to beat her on the other side?
Right, that is a huge question. And just, Tara, you know, if I may, you know, the matchups are all getting closer here. What's interesting to me is that Rand Paul seems to be the most competitive general election candidate.
Let's put that up for a second, because that is interesting. When you compare all the top GOP candidates to Hillary Clinton, look at this. Rand Paul is at 47% right now, whereas Hillary Clinton is only at 48%. I mean, they're neck and neck.
That's neck and neck, and it doesn't make a lot of sense because he's not top tier in the Republican candidates among primary voters right now. There's also a very deep gender gap with Rand Paul. His base of support is overwhelmingly men, not women. You see that throughout the Republican field. That's a weakness Republicans are going to have to address. They cannot ignore, and it's not simply enough to beat up Hillary Clinton.
But tee it up, because it's an even bigger headline than that. We were talking before the show. How big is his gap between man and woman? And the big question with polls, you always pay for the numbers, but the question that you really pay for is why. What do you see in the numbers, and what do you see as a possible explanation?
Well, libertarians generally have had a big gender gap. They tend more male than female. But with Rand Paul, it's really stark. However, you see it throughout the field. Scott Walker has a 14-point edge on Hillary Clinton among men in this poll. Hillary Clinton has a 20-point lead among women. So that gender gap is serious. Republicans are going to have to address it. And the poll also shows that if they overplay their hand on Benghazi and a lot of these attacks, it will alienate the swing voters. Republicans need to be careful about that.
Well, if I can jump in here really quickly, something else that's interesting about Hillary Clinton is the number that says, does she care about people like me? That is a very important metric. That is what lost the campaign for Mitt Romney. During exit polling in 2012, Public Opinion Strategies, they asked 4 questions about shared values, vision for the future, and do you care like me, and strong leadership. And Mitt Romney won on 3 out of the 4 of those issues against Barack Obama. The one that he was destroyed on was he cares about people like me. It was 18% to 81% in favor of Barack Obama. If Hillary Clinton does not connect with voters, they don't feel as though that she cares about them, they will not vote for her. And also the other aspect of this was the vision for the future. You know, who represents the future? Hillary Clinton is looked at as yesterday's news. She's very yesterday, and that is consistent with what Marco Rubio has been doing and the way he's been running his campaign. The way he opened his campaign was with that she's yesterday's news, he's the future. And having a vision for the future, and in this poll, Marco Rubio, Rand Paul, Scott Walker, they all polled over 50% considerably. And so if you see who Hillary Clinton was not losing, but closing the gap against or running even with, it was all candidates on the Republican side that people felt had a stronger vision for the future. And I think that hurts her. Same thing with Bush. I think Jeb Bush
Hillary
has a
Clinton
similar
should be
problem.
polling at about 4.5% right now. Why is she doing well at all?
Well, but she's got name recognition. Come on, everyone knows who Hillary Clinton is.
Jeb Bush has a ton of name recognition as well. Look, this poll shows, first of all, that the Bush Association hurts Jeb a lot more.
Okay, let's put that up. Bush family connections make you more likely to vote for him is 27%. Less likely to vote for him, 56%. No difference, 16%. So that's quite a big difference. Less likely to vote for him.
Yeah,
well, because his brother left office at, polling in the low 30s, very unpopular. George W. Bush left very unpopular, and there was a financial crisis. People still have a bad taste in their mouths of 8 years of George Bush. It's Bush fatigue, unlike Hillary, where Bill Clinton left office quite popular and remained so for many, many years. So she's still riding the wave somewhat of the popularity of Bill.
Yeah,
so,
I think the other factor
decline
there
now.
is also that Hillary is not just the second Clinton, she's the first woman. That's important. The other thing about that future past narrative, which a lot of candidates are trying to do, is that Hillary Clinton's strongest support is actually among young voters in this poll, who may not even have any memories personally of the Clinton presidency. And there are a lot of interesting dichotomies. Marco Rubio is trying to run not only as generational change, but someone who can relate to the blue collar, the working class, doing badly among voters making under 50,000, best among wealthier voters. So there's some interesting, undercurrents in this poll.
Tara, let's end by looking at the latest poll numbers for the field of Republicans, because it's interesting to see who's up and who's down. So let me put these up. The Republicans' choice for nominee in 2016 at the top now is, there you go, is Rubio at 14%. What's interesting is he was at 11% in April. And then you see Jeb Bush, Mike Huckabee, Walker. Let me just show you here Rand Paul, because that's interesting. He's down from 11% to 8% now over the course of a month or two. But yet he pairs best against Hillary Clinton. So that's a bit of a mixed message, Tara.
Well, pairs best within 1 percentage point. I mean, but he's definitely closing a 19-point gap, which you guys pointed out earlier is very interesting. But Rand Paul has also been very vocal in his opposition to NSA spying and civil rights issues and civil liberties issues. So he's been a lot more visible, a lot more vocal on issues, whereas Hillary Clinton's been rather silent. She's been on a listening tour and not really talking. But Marco Rubio also, that he's actually declared, unlike Bush. Bush is still, flirting with the idea. He's not an officially declared candidate, even though he's sucking up the donors, and that's what they thought in the beginning anyway. But he's struggling, again, because he is not representing any fresh or new ideas. And even in this poll, 61% said that he represented the past. That these metrics are the way people perceive these things. Not many people want to go backwards; they want to move forward. So that's going to be the challenge for Jeb Bush moving forward. How he's going to present himself as a fresh, new, forward-thinking candidate when he has family legacy and he's been out of the spotlight for 8 years. It's going to be a challenge for him.
One thing's for sure that we see in here, Tara and John, is that there's a lot of appetite out there. The question is, are they having the need get some fulfillment in who they see out there? Are they feeding the need? Right. That's what we don't see yet.
Yes, Tara, John, thank you. Great to see you guys. All right, on to this story. An American being held by Houthi rebels in